The concerns in the Thames River right now are that phosphorus levels are too high.
If we do nothing right now, it's going to be very, very bad for our future generations.
It's important for us to be responsible to each other and to the plants and animals that share this river.
Literally, you will have fish kills as a result of no oxygen in the water. That is a result of the phosphorus using up that oxygen.
The most massive algae bloom across Lake Erie on record caused an environmental scare this summer. The bloom covered 300 square miles, an area roughly the size of New York City.
You're looking at a type of algae, and it's not the good-for-you kind.
They produce liver or nerve toxins, and if you go swimming in it, you could end up with a rash, contact dermatitis.
In freshwater in particular, the big concerns are nitrogen and phosphorus, which can accelerate the growth of algal blooms.
All the wetlands are being poisoned, and you can see it through the algae blooms. And those are very toxic, and they become so toxic that they kill the aqualife, and they're starting to kill the plants. So those have to be restored and taken away as soon as possible.
If there's a lot of algae, this is stuff that these are small-celled organisms that metabolize very quickly. They can grow to be big populations, but then because they're so small, they die as well.
That is a lot of algae.
So the worst possible result if phosphorus levels get too high is that we get massive algal blooms. And so we get green Thames River, green lakes that flow downstream of the Thames River. If there's this green cover on the Thames River, it prevents the penetration of sunlight down into the bottom of the Thames. We get less plant growth, and we get less life below the surface of the water in general. So it's possible that if phosphorus levels get too high, you're going to get a lot of algae and nothing else growing in your rivers.
Thames River Rally is a volunteer group that organizes monthly cleanups of the Thames River in garbage hotspots across the City of London. Our hope is that when you come down to the river and we clean other things out of it, garbage, litter, plastics, that we can begin a conversation about phosphorus as well and talk about larger issues that are facing the Thames River and get people mobilized to talk to their elected officials about it and make that a priority.
The big contributor to phosphorus levels in this area will be fertilizer runoff from agricultural areas. Plants need nitrogen and phosphorus to grow. They're big contributors to proteins and DNA. So every living thing will need nitrogen and phosphorus. And fertilizers have high levels of these things.
The positive things that are happening right now is, first of all, the awareness. We are getting a huge awareness because of what's happening on Lake Erie. Right now there's some initiatives. One is with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture and the Great Lakes Cities Initiative. They've come together and are looking at ways of encouraging farming practices that will improve the situation with regards to phosphorus removal. Nobody is trying to put phosphorus into the watercourses. Fertilizer is expensive. No farmer or agricultural producer wants to put more than he needs onto the land. So it's really just a matter of looking at what are the techniques, what are the ways, and if it can be done voluntarily or whether the province needs to step in and actually make it a regulatory aspect, which is what they have been doing in the States.
So farmers can choose fertilizers that have lower levels of phosphorus, but one way for farmers to deal with that would be to apply their fertilizers at a time when they do not expect high rain so that there's less runoff into the rivers.
Phosphorus attaches itself to soil and has to move with the soil. So we help farmers address that problem with conservation structures, with conservation cropping and tillage such as no-till or cover crops.
people without farms can still contribute to lower levels of phosphorus in the water by similarly not fertilizing their lawns when there's an expected rainfall within a couple of days.
Many people fertilize their lawn because they feel that's something that they need to do for property value, whatever. Very few people do a soil test to see what they actually need for fertilizer, because quite frequently that fertilizer has more phosphorus than it needs. Many will say that there's areas where you don't need any phosphorus. Washing your car, if you're washing your car in your driveway, all that soapy water runs right into the storm sewer. Storm sewers are part of a storm sewer system which has no treatment. It goes directly to the river. So even just pulling your car onto the lawn when you wash it, or making sure that you're using detergents on the car that are not phosphorus rich, those are simple things that can be done.
We belong to the river. Our whole spirituality comes from those 4 cardinal forces. And that's what the Creator gave us, those gifts. And so water becomes life.
You know, one way to hold government accountable is first by holding ourselves accountable, making sure that, we're doing the things that we need to do, that we are educated on the issues that are facing the river, that we get out and take direct action and take ownership of this shared natural resource.
We need to adapt to the earth, not try to force our way of thinking onto the earth. We have to live with the earth.